Hello everyone, my name is Gabrielle Lagrule, and today I'll be talking to you about Polykleitos' bronze process versus today's, and my own process of how I made my bronze sculpture. So Polykleitos is a Greek sculptor of the High Classical period. He was part of the first generation of Greek sculptors to have a school of followers, which lasted about 3 generations. He mainly created in bronze, and even wrote a canon that explained his methods and principles of the perfect sculpture, called Canon of Polykleitos. It was basically him talking about how he came up with the mathematics of the perfect proportions of the male figure. His process is a lost wax process. First, he made a full-size clay model. Second, he made a mold from the clay model, which he did by covering the clay model with a layer of wax, then another layer of clay over that. Third, he used a wax model and melted it out of the mold. Fourth, he used the clay mold and packed it into sand and filled it with bronze. And fifth, he let the bronze cool and then took the clay out, and a bronze sculpture was left. So the process for casting bronze today is pretty much the same as it was many years ago. The only difference is the materials that are used to make molds. So here's very many different kinds of molds that you can use: algae-safe mold, rebound mold, plaster mold, resin-bonded sand mold, investment mold, and ceramic shell mold. Some of these is what I used in my own process, and a lot of these materials are from Reynolds Advanced Materials, which I have a link down here if anybody is interested in making their own molds to make any kind of casting, whether it be metal, wax, plaster, resin, etc. This is their website. You can purchase from them. You can find out what their materials are, how to use them. You can even call them, and they're very helpful and knowledgeable about their own products. So my process starts out with an idea. And my first idea was to make a small sculpture of a person. I realized quickly that it wasn't going to happen because I didn't have time. So I then decided, hey, why not make a life cast? My mother was my model, and we used a life cast mold, which was an algae-safe mold. And what I did was, after I made the mold of her hand, I took her hand out, poured plaster in that, let it cure. I was then left with the plaster casting of her hand, put rubber mold material on top of that, which here I used Rebound 25. Then I put multiple layers on that to give it some thickness, put a plaster mother mold on top of the rebound mold so that it was more rigid and it wouldn't collapse. I then poured wax into the mold so that I can get it to be hollow, and then I cleaned it up. Whatever is in wax is what is going to come out in metal, so I made sure to clean it up very, very well before I added my gating onto there. After I added gating, I then proceeded to put the ceramic shell material on top of my wax pattern. And then after that is cured and everything, we melt it out in a kiln to get all the wax out. After all the wax is out, we burn them out again, the molds, just to be safe and make sure that the molds are hot enough. After we make sure that they're hot enough, we then pour the bronze into the ceramic shell. Now, pouring any kind of metal requires a team of people. You cannot do this simply by yourself, depending on the kind of metal and the amount that is being poured. After about 6 hours to a day, you can break open your ceramic shell mold and see your bronze casting, clean it up, take off all the ceramic shell material, and cut off all your gating. I then put a patina on mine to add some color and a pedestal to add some height. I then put a gold strand around my mother's finger to signify her ring, and then I was finished. And this was the end product of my sculpture. Again, my name is Gabrielle Lagrule, and today I've talked to you about Polykleitos' bronze process versus today's, and I've told you about my own process about how I made my bronze sculpture. Thank you.